Hey Suhas, can you hear me?
Hey Elvis.
Yeah, long time no
Yes, I can
see.
hear you. How are you doing? How are you? Last time you were injured a bit. Are you all right now?
I'm. Could you say it again? Sorry.
Last time you were injured a bit.
Yeah, I was injured because I'm getting old, and I think it's getting better now. But I just avoid lifting heavy items, and I also suspect it due to my bed is too soft. So I changed the bed to a harder one. I'm not used to a very soft bed, but getting better now. Thanks for asking. Yeah.
I still in Washington
Yeah,
or
still Washington because I'm actually traveling to Denver soon. So I don't want to just fly around. Just I will fly from Denver to Boston. And so next month, no, not next month. In October, are you gonna be in California as well?
yeah.
But I think so. Are you a 2021 fellow, right?
Yeah.
So our dates should overlap, I think, right?
Yeah.
Because I think they have the senior fellows before us, and then it's 2021, 2022 after the senior fellow meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, look forward to
So,
meeting in person again there as well.
yeah, I think we'll be spending like a week together doing things.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah.
it's very interesting. They have two hotel addresses. One, I think, one in Berkeley. So the one in Berkeley, I used to stay there for another conference to give a talk. So it's a same location. Very interesting.
Mm.
So yeah, I look forward to. I think we can hang out, and discuss. Just hang out, just enjoy.
Yeah. The already many things have come out of the previous global meeting that we had in Boston.
Hmm.
So lots of collaboration. I've already started two collaborations which are going really well.
Oh,
So
that's great. That's great.
yeah.
And by the way, today, Smith, so they finally approved my placement.
Oh,
So
great, great.
after a lot of documentation, so earlier this week, got a signature from both Anna and Ted, and we sent that, and they finally approved everything. So that's I just hate the paperwork. They ask for a lot of paperwork now. But
There's
anyway, yeah.
a there's a very nice machine learning for materials conference happening in Toronto, a very big one
Ah.
right now. Yeah, next year you should definitely come. It's going to be really nice.
Is this gonna be the same time, August timeline?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I will make sure to get my green card before that. Oh, by the way, for the next global meeting in Singapore, are you gonna be there as well?
No, I don't think so.
So that's only for our 2022 fellow, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I see. But if I don't get my green card, I couldn't travel out of the states. So let's see. Yeah.
Why not?
Oh, so here's the thing, because my previous visa already expired. I'm still legal to stay in the U.S., but if I get out, I have to go to the embassy to get another visa to enter the U.S., and that process is gonna take, sometimes a couple of months. So I couldn't risk doing that. Um, yeah, that's the. Really hate the U.S. for this. So I think you mentioned also interesting green card. So I will go through the process, and if you need any input from me, I will help you in the process. It's really
Oh, right.
annoying process, and I have spent I think a couple of weeks to put together 100-page document to send to the lawyer. And the lawyer is gonna help do some processing, and there's gonna be some a lot more paperwork along the way. So yeah, I hate to do this, but this is something we have to do if we want to stay in the US, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes. So you already submitted your application?
Not yet. We're still finalizing the petition letter and everything, and so I will submit two applications. One through NIW, and the other one through EBUNA. So I will file both, just to make sure I can get either one. So let's see.
Just so I know, how many reference letters do you need for this?
Oh yeah. So here's the thing. So I'm still trying to speak to my lawyer to decide on the final numbers. But for NIW, probably two would be sufficient. And the EBIA, I think around five each letters. And the weird part for that is you will need independent letters. So whoever that publishes with you in the past, your personal advisors, they can provide letter, but the letter is not independent letter. So for the final, let's say five letters, uh, you can only have around two each dependent letters, and the other three letters will be the people you never collaborated with in the past, but who somehow are able to judge your work and how you are doing in the field and what your potential contribution can be for the United States. So that's the really interesting anyway. But you have to do that in a later stage. So I will finish my process, and if in the future you need that, I can share my document with you. You can see there's a lot of effort that I put into the document later when you need that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm planning to apply next year. So,
Yeah.
uh,
So, but it
very
doesn't
well.
hurt to prepare early because I signed a contract in April and I didn't start preparing my document. So I was, spending just a couple of hours per week to do that. That's not very efficient. So from the end of last month, I spent, I think, 20, 30-ish hours per week to do this. So I put together a 100-page document now, still trying to add more. But you need to have a big chunk of your time to dedicate to uh, writing the research summary to be sent to the lawyer. But it's only you only need the document with certain law firms. For some other law firms, you probably don't need that letter, but they still will ask you to prepare something for them, because otherwise they wouldn't read your paper for sure. They wouldn't read any of that. They will ask you to get your background. But anyway, I just feel this is a really annoying process, which is something, but we have to do. So anyway,
Yeah.
I think you should stand a very good chance because you got the Rhodes and the Schmidt. These two you can claim as national and international awards. So there are certain categories you can claim you have that. But also you look at um, your citation numbers and also your experience as a referee to journal publications, and if possible, if you also have the experience of being on the editorial board for some journals and providing and serving as let's say guest editor for some special issues, that is also helpful. That because that will fit into the criteria you have independently judged other people's work in the field, meaning you are qualified. So I have been on 8 journals as their young editorial boards. That's the lawyer said that's helpful. He's putting that into the petition letter. So if you want to, you can keep an eye on the papers in journals in your field to see whether they have open calls for young editorial boards, and then you can try to participate. I think that's going to be helpful based on my case. So just think about that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I had never paid attention to any of these calls because I always thought it's just a waste of time, but I
Uh-huh.
will.
But you know what? It is a waste of your time taking some energy, take some time from your research, but it's really good for your green card.
Yeah.
Because for research papers, it takes time to publish, it takes time to get citations, but to get the editorial experience, this will directly they will cite that as evidence. So if I see something, I will forward that to you. I just think just because you're interested in green card, that is gonna be helpful. And I just see because this I never had any editorial experience before last August. But after that, I just see some open calls, just submit a quick cover letter and CV, and got on 8 of the journals already. And I think that's helpful for my green card. It's not helpful for anything else, just for green card. Anyway,
How do you find these calls?
okay. Here's the thing. I look. So some of the journals, their chief editors have Chinese origin, so they promote that both in their journal's website, which is not easy to find because you don't look at journal website all the time. But some of them they actually promote across different social medias, WeChat, LinkedIn, Twitter, being several of the platforms. So just keep an eye on the journals. So for me, I look at the journal. One of them is Materials Today Energy. It's a sister journal for Materials Today, and there's a journal. I think Eco Mat. So energy materials. So I just saw the post, send my materials, and I just have one template. Just change the name for the journal a bit, and I just send it to the couple places. And surprisingly, they just accept all of them. So yeah, I just put that on my CV and on my petition letter for my green card. And I think you should consider doing that as well because it's going to be helpful material to show you not only serve as referee to publications, but also serve on the editorial board. That's going to be helpful. Yeah, this is just
So,
something.
so these journals that solicit applications, are they a very high impact factor journals, or is it generally low
Oh,
impact factor?
yeah. So it depends. For example, one of the journal I serve on the editorial board, they have the impact factor of uh, around 12, which is not bad. And
Yeah.
also one of the journals is around 9-ish, and another journal hasn't is a new journal, hasn't released impact yet, but aim to be around 20-ish. So a lot of the journals, the editors are really good at running the journals. They try to get a high impact factor for sure. And I would definitely look for good journals. If the but according to my experience, for example, for Nano Letters, it's a very good journal. Their young editorial board is usually not open to us, postdoc levels. They are usually for assistant or associate professors or beyond. So there's you just look at opportunities and try. You just have a one cover letter, and you already have your CV. Just change the name a bit. Just when you see the opening, send that. Just doesn't cost you much time, and if you get in, I think that's gonna be helpful for you applying for the next editor bot. Anyway, so this is just something I think you can consider. You don't need doesn't. This is just if it interests you, you can consider. And
Yeah, thank you. I hadn't even thought of this. I learn something new every time. Thanks for telling me.
Yeah, and I will forward you some open calls if I see there's a feed, for example, energy materials. If they have that, I will send that to you. You can apply as well.
Thank you. That would be great.
Yeah, and you still have plenty of time. You wouldn't apply until next year, so you have plenty of time to gain this experience. Because I would say for publications, probably you wouldn't have that much increase after 1 year, but for this experience, you can. There's a lot of sense you can play around.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just also today, yesterday, um, Ted sent an email to me saying if I need immediate computational resource from the group, he says I can talk to Peng Fei O, right? The postdoc, the other postdoc. But I don't have anything yet. But I mentioned since he connected you and me over email, I said to both Ted and Alan, say we are thinking about a potential piece, but we don't have anything yet. We will follow up. We will follow up if you have some something's solid or the figures or anything. I just say right now we are working on something.
Okay, great. Okay.
PV or potential PV is to do air capture, but we don't have a lot. We have a potential perspective piece. So I just want to let them know we are doing this. Yeah. So I guess after we have a solid outline and the figures, we can reach out back to them with this, and it would be good to get both of them as the corresponding authors. Otherwise, nobody gonna believe us, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, I just yeah, I keep I feel like I'm talking too much, but okay. So let's go back to the business. I think we so do you mind share the screen, or should I share the screen, or
Go ahead, please go ahead.
okay. So I guess today we just want to um, yeah, coordinate and see the best. Okay. All right. Let me make this large. Okay. So today, so you have what time do you have to leave?
I have to leave exactly at 7:30.
4:30. So we have 20 23 27 minutes. Okay,
Yeah.
let's rush to go over what we have and come up with a plan for the future. All right. Um, so I just put together some rough figure ideas because ideally I think we have I know we have several sections, but the sections doesn't tell anything. So having the figures, and today I just want to talk about the rationale for the figure, and also decide on what we want to include for each of this. And I think for the first one, um, since both of us have technological background, so it definitely makes sense to include technologies, because otherwise if we go directly to talk about other aspects, we are not expert in policy or business. So I think even if we talk about technology or business, we should still base on our some specific technologies, so that we can comment on, because neither Ted or Alan, they are not experts in policy or business either. So we feed everything into technology, and the five figures, essentially the first figure we want to say what technology do we have. The second figure is to say how do we evaluate these technologies. This highlighted in red part, and the flow is we want to evaluate what technology are available, and then find a way to benchmark these technologies. And then suppose we know the best technologies. How do we have the best financial strategies and the policies to support the specific technologies that we identified? And later, we also want to have something like right now we have data capture like this with the best practices in finance and policy. How will this look like in the future? So this is just my um, very rough very rough figure ideas about how the flow can look like, and also want to listen to what do you think about the flow.
I think all of these are dream figures. I would love to see any of these figures. Um, going on the web and looking for data, I found it pretty hard to find any kind of data, long-term data about financials, funding, about what each government has been investing into DAC and PV. Um, so until we get sources of data, it may be hard to actually make something
Mm.
reasonable. Um, maybe you already know those sources, in which case our problem is solved. Um, so I was thinking that one general plot that we could open with could be, I haven't put that down here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we take the commercialization of solar,
Mm-hmm.
and we show a flow chart, and we show what the key elements were. So, for instance, a certain critical advance that improved the stability and brought it to 30,000 hours, a critical advance that made the efficiency so much.
Mm-hmm.
This was a technical advance, but after that, there was the financial advance, and then there was the production advance.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a parallel flow chart for
Oh,
DAC,
I see.
and we say that these are the advances that need to happen.
Mm.
And then we can take each of those, and we can say the financial advances. We can have a little section in the paper and say this is what needs to happen. The production advance, this is what needs to happen, so on. I
Mm.
mean, no data involved, so it's easy to make.
Okay, I see. So essentially, it's the same idea for the book, right? How to make solar cheap. So they have creating technology, making it cheap. Creating market, making it cheap. So essentially, but for what you just said, is something like a timeline that has more specifics that talk about what are the most important things related to technology, related to policy, related to business. Is that right?
Exactly. I
Okay.
mean, we can even have a timeline stretching from 1950 to 2020.
Uh huh.
And on the timeline, we can show that these are the different things that happened for PV. And then that can become the discussion point for
Hmm.
DAC.
Okay. I think I kind of think this makes sense because right now I know we are struggling to find some specifics for this piece. We know there is something we can write, but we just want to be specific to make sure we bring up some point. And actually, we can potentially I can quickly introduce the development of DAC and the goal. So the first time DAC was proposed as a solution for greenhouse gas mitigation was in 1999 by a professor called Klaus Lackner, who used to be at Columbia. Recently, they moved to Arizona State University. So he's the first person in the late 90s to talk about using DAC directly as a climate mitigation goal. And so here's the starting point. And the goal recently set up by the DOE is to say by the next decade, by 2030, we want to reach less than. So there are three goals we want to reach. Um, I think I can have that. So just give me one sec. Can you see the web page?
Mm-hmm.
So here's the web page by the DOE. They say they want to reach less than $100 per ton of CO2, and uh, also in 1 decade. They announced this I think last year in the carbon negative shot. So the starting point is from 1990s, and the end point, which they deem as a commercial ready, is to be in 1 decade. I think you already have since PV is already mature, you already have this uh, timeline available. You can track the key technical advances, business advances, policy advances. And here I can have a timeline from 1990s to I think let's say 2030, and try to see what already happened and what hasn't happened, and potentially we can find something, right? So I'm just trying to think about what I can put into the timeline. But the 1990s and 2030 will be the starting and end point for DAC, presumably.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, and for the so if we do that, the key figure will be the timeline figure, right?
I think so. That can be our opening figure, like one figure that stretches from the right to the left, from the left to the right,
Mm-hmm.
like a timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we can displace the timeline. So for PV, we have stretching from 1950 to 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And for DAC, we can stretch it from 2010 to 2040 or something like that.
Okay. And the figure we can, so I was saying, since PV is already mature, it will be easier to uh, summarize the existing advances for all of this. But for their air capture, um, since people are still developing new technologies, there's also scaling up existing technologies. Uh, I can put some key timeline, for example, the start date for the funding date for several of the startup companies and some of the policy initiatives. Uh, but essentially, what kind of message we want to convey? I just don't want this to be too generic. So even if we have the timeline, we still need to have the separate subsections to talk about each of this, right?
You mean, are you talking about the message of the paper or the message of the figure?
The both, because since people already write, we can possibly use PV to generate learnings for their air capture. So what do we what sense do we do new to add to that? I just want to get some specifics new sense that we add to the existing knowledge out there.
You mean new recommendations, right?
Possibly new recommendations or possibly new findings that people haven't published yet, because otherwise it's not publishable, right?
Mm. Yeah. I mean, some immediate things we have already discussed calibration and standardization a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
That's one.
Uh-huh.
Then I think the other big one is the necessity of having supply chains concentrated in one region. So PV took off because every part, every subsection of the PV system was being built in China.
uh,
So, um, so it was all happening in one place. So that made it much more efficient, the learning curve.
mm-hmm.
So, which is why one of the things I've suggested in the document is a map where we mark on the map where currently all of the different subsections of the tax system can be manufactured in the world. So let's say the electronics are in China, a particular chemical component is done in the US, something else is done in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
and what their production capacities are, by how much this has to scale. Can this really scale by that much? Maybe you need a particular kind of that, just making something up, a kind of chlorine compound that won't even you can't even scale by 100-fold in 10 years.
Mm.
Um,
So
so I
essentially,
mean,
you are talking about supply chain scale up, right?
yeah.
I think talking about supply chain itself, how to scale up, that's is really good point, because that's actually one of the things proposed by ClimateWorks, the leading DAC company. They say no one is talking about supply chain scale up at this point because we are still so small, the capacity is so small. But this is definitely unavoidable, and no one knows how to scale up that supply chain for that in the future. So this could be potentially something that we can bring to the piece that nobody has discussed yet. No one understands how to do that. I don't know how to do that either. Okay, yeah. So supply chain, um, certification. So I think we still have the timeline figure that you proposed. That's definitely helpful. And having the separate sections on technology, policy, and business, we will have the certification part in, for example, in policy, and having the business the supply chain scale up on their business, and for tech. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So what do you think would be the since we have only 30 minutes left, so how do you suggest we move forward?
Mm. I mean, my suggestion is we make figures and we write text. Um, so specifically, I think we should get the introduction ready because that will is what will really drive the entire piece forward. It'll also give us some clues about what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
So we write introductions and we can try to sign off the introductions in a couple of different ways with a couple of different ending strategies and takeaways, and then we'll discuss what is the most promising one, and we can write the entire paper based on that. Um, I think we should move to writing clean text, as in instead of writing bullet points or adding screenshots, we should try to write clean text from now.
Okay, and I think we can do that at the same time. Do we? I think we also need to decide on the figures, right? Because we can only write introduction now without the figures. Without with the figure ready, we can write the specific sections as well. So I think that the points you just mentioned. So right now, the plan to move forward, both of us can write intros. So you focus on PV part. I focus on the DAC part. So we can write to identify some gaps for the error capture, and we can come meet again to discuss our intros. And at the same time, for the figures, I think both of us can contribute to the timeline figure that we just discussed. So timeline figure, this looks like a very important overarching message that people can already see by looking at that figure. But since it's only one figure that it couldn't contain all the message, we also need to have separate figures, all tables. So maybe figure one, instead of having what technology do we have? We have the timeline figure as a figure one, and okay, figure one is the timeline. So this would be from all the from tech policy, business, I would say breakthroughs. So this is figure one. And table one, we can have certification. So there are already some existing certification that claim to happen for DAC. For PV, there's a lot certification certification for DAC. This is another table. And what else do you recommend? Do you think we can use some of the ideas suggested below?
Which document are you looking at?
I'm looking at learnings from PV for DAC.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can both try to edit for the next plan. Yeah, this document.
I would really like to have one figure on investment, some kind of financial figure, because they're not out there. So if we create it, then it'll probably get cited quite a lot.
So investment, so that's essentially figure. Let's see. Investment. That's the figure C that I talk about below, right? Figure for both private and federal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So that's the figure 2. And what else do you think makes sense?
So right now we have decided on the one opening figure with the timeline,
Yeah, this
maybe
timeline.
one financial figure,
Yeah, one financial
and
figure.
hmm,
And we also have one table summarizing the certification and benchmarking. Or
yeah, we can have that. We can have that. Um,
oh, so for the supply chain, I think can we get a figure for the supply chain, the work map you mentioned, or something like that? Supply chain
yeah,
scale.
actually, I was thinking, can we have an entire PV ecosystem map? As in, what is the PV ecosystem? I
Hmm.
mean, so for instance, there are research universities, and then there are calibration agencies, and then there's the supply chain, and then there are these large, huge manufacturers. So if you can draw a diagram that shows all of these interconnections,
Mm-hmm.
then people can look at that and they can figure out, oh, these things are actually missing in the DAC ecosystem, and we should borrow some of this.
Oh, okay. So we can actually just have figure. So figure one is the timeline for both development, but figure two we can have probably A and B. Part A is the ecosystem for PV, and part B is ecosystem for DAG. And we can compare. Uh, Naively, I would think A would be more developed, right? You have more. Uh, okay, so that would be an ecosystem map. But still, I just feel um, it's really difficult to be quantitative to get some numbers, right?
Yeah, I'm sure the data is out there somewhere. Uh, where is the question? Do you have any DAC data?
Oh, what do you mean by data? Data, I have the energy requirement, materials requirement, and the predicted price evolvement. I can find that, but what other data are you referring to?
I was talking about financial data. So maybe
Okay,
amount
financial.
of investment into startups, amount of federal investments into research.
So this I have if you scroll down, I know we were running out of time, but if you scroll down under 3.1, um, 3.12, I have the federal funding for DAC. Actually, there's the fiscal year 2020. I have amount for DAC funding, and also the funding can tell you what kind of technologies from material development to pilot to field demo. They have this different split into different stages of DAC development. This is available.
I see. So this is available for what time period?
So if you see, I think I can share the screen. Yeah, so I can quickly go over this. So if you see this one, this is the DOE's funding. This is only the US for 2020, fiscal year 2020, 2021, 2022. And they have support for DAC from TIL low level to TIL high level. So they have all of that. And I also have this is very new, a recent a presentation by the DOE I attended. And the other one here talk about from the National Academy Press. They have the funding. I think this was published in 2019, and they have the recommended funding deployment for dual area capture technology from basic applied research to deployment. They have the suggestions by the national academies how we can split the funding. So this is available I think this is also very relatively new literature. And recently, the Biden administration, they have the new bipartisan infrastructure law, and one of them is dedicated to data capture, also pretty new, federal support. And I also have a document summarizing the recent venture capital money for the private sector to data capture companies. So this I can find some data, but I just wanted to see how we can potentially put that in a figure. But I think so. Since you have to run in 2 minutes, and we have looks like we have something that we can work on now. Um, so the figure one timeline for PV and DAC, and table one certification PV certification for DAC. Figure two ecosystem for PV and DAC, and figure three is the private and federal money for both that we just talked about. So how about we just use? I think this is already 4 figures. 3 figures, one table. Already some illustrations that we can start to work on. So I guess we can move this forward based on what we have discussed today, and and also should we set up a time for our next meeting?
Yeah, maybe. So shall we focus solely on the introduction this week? So we'll get a solid introduction done, an actual written one, not bullet points, plus the figure, the opening figure.
Would that be too ambitious to finish everything? I don't know. So for the introduction, how what is the word count we are talking about?
I'm thinking like 400 words or 250,
Oh,
300
okay.
to 400 words.
So that is doable. I'm thinking
Yeah.
about something like many thousands. Okay, 400 words. So it's 400 in total, or 400. So that would be
400 in total.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be 400 at this point. We'll edit it down to 400, but just we'll write whatever we want at this
Okay,
point.
so I think we can focus on finishing the introduction, and so I will write mostly from DAC part. You will write from PV part, and the next time we connect, we just share with each other what we have, and also think about what we can put into the figures and the four that we just discussed. And
Great.
so, what time do you think will work for you?
Maybe same time next Tuesday.
Let me check. Same time next Tuesday. That should work. So that would be 6. What is time for you? So 6:45.
We can do 7. 7 is fine next.
Okay, so I will send a kind of invitation for next week, 7, the same time, and let's just focus on finishing the introduction and putting something into the 4 illustrations that we just decided.
Great.
All right.
Great. Okay, I really have to run now,
Sure,
but it
yeah.
was great talking. We'll see you next week with the introduction.
Sure, definitely.
Okay.
See you next week. Enjoy.
You too. Bye.
All right. Bye.